Glad to know you stay with us. A global technology group, Wärtsilä, has revealed that for Nigeria to meet the 100% renewable energy power system by 2060, it must attract investments worth $425 billion. In the report titled Nigeria Leading Africa to Net Zero, it was disclosed that the country must design an optimal power system consisting of 1,200 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity, 283 gigawatt of energy storage, and 34 gigawatt of engine-based power plants for grid balancing purposes. Recall that Nigeria launched its Energy Transition Plan (ETP), which is purported to be its homegrown data-backed and multi-pronged strategy to achieve net zero emissions by 2060 while solving energy poverty and lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Joining us to make sense of this is George Anyebunem, a sustainability expert. He joins us virtually. Hello, good to have you join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Perpetua. Thanks for having me around today.
All right. Now, according to Wärtsilä's report, Nigeria requires $425 billion to reach its 2060 net zero carbon emission target. What are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you so much, Perpetua. Thanks for having me here once again. I think that report is quite interesting, and not just that it's interesting, it's timely, seeing what we've passed through in the past few years in terms of grid collapse, energy crisis, energy insecurity. So I think for policymakers, it gives them that opportunity to step back a bit, think, and begin to take proactive and decisive steps towards achieving energy security. That cost is huge, people will say. But I normally tell people that energy security does not come cheap because the socio-economic impact is huge. Okay, look at what's going on in Ukraine today. Grid collapse. Ukraine was making serious progress in terms of their energy transitions. They were actually achieving up to 10%. But the war has actually degraded the whole progress or destroyed the whole effort and the whole success accumulated over the years. And you see what is going on there. You see what's going on in Europe, in Germany. Because energy security is key. It's very important. The socioeconomic benefits are huge, like I said. But it doesn't come cheap. It costs a lot.
I like that you're already talking. Let me come in here. I like that you are already talking about how that it doesn't come cheap and all that. This is a laudable plan, just like you said, and so many analysts have also agreed with you on this. And then attracting required investment is equally as important. But the question is, how should Nigeria position itself to attract this huge amount of money? What should we be doing?
So one of the basic things that Nigeria must do is that for you to attract investment, you must make yourself attractive first. You must make yourself attractive. And how do you make yourself attractive? It's just like a young lady who wants to attract the right suitor. You must make yourself attractive and take the right position. But for nations like Nigeria, the way you make yourself attractive is through policy. You must create the enabling policy that will act as magnets for this investment to flow to you. For instance, we must go back and see how can we liberalize, how can we democratize the energy sector. Look at Germany, for instance, or let me say Europe. The market is highly democratized in the sense that you can generate electricity in your house. When you have excess, you can add it to the national grid and get paid.
But you know, we have a law. We have a law really that does that. We have a law already.
Yeah. So if you have a law that does that, how have you been able to enforce it? Or how have you been able to encourage people to generate more electricity? So not just having the law or policy, like I said, I think last time I came here, Nigeria has a lot of laws. We have a lot of policies. But are we really enforcing them? What are the practicalities of these policies? Then the next thing that government must do is to create the necessary platforms and structures that will enable people, investors, mostly investors and innovators, to be able to think and take actions towards achieving this very lofty goal or tall goal. One of them, if you go to somewhere like Canada, for instance, you will see that Canada, America, you see that governments take that step to establish what we call green banks. So these green banks are able to attract what we call DFI funding, Development Finance Institution funding. And these development finance institution funding that are usually very cheap. So when this funding or when this capital comes cheap, it gives people the opportunity to actually have access to cheap capital, then gives them that willingness or that passion, that zeal to go out there and take risk, knowing that they have, what do I call it now? They have that funding that will support them, that will back them up. That's another thing. Then the next thing is that we must begin to think of how we can bring in the public, what we trigger what we call public-private partnerships, PPP. We must encourage the public sector, or the private sector rather, to come in and also become a part of what is going on. If you look at Nigerian breweries, I think that was 2-3 years ago, their facility in Ibadan, their brewery in Ibadan, they said now is 100% renewable. That's an effort. So government cannot do it alone. A few weeks ago, I was at Presco in Benin. Presco is a palm oil processing factory in somewhere in Edo State, and I saw the kind of investment they've made in that particular company. That now they are able to generate their own energy. They are able to self-sustain that industry there. That's a big one. So these are the things that government must do: encourage people, encourage the private sector to equally come in and throw in their support.
All right. Still looking at this particular report titled Nigeria Leading Africa to Net Zero, it was disclosed that the country must design an optimal power system consisting of 1,200 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, 283 gigawatts of energy storage, and 34 gigawatts of engine-based power plants for grid balancing purposes. How feasible is this, or how can we begin to work towards achieving this?
Yeah, so I think the feasibility is not something that is so difficult to attain. Looking at the fact that Nigeria is so blessed with both the human resources and the natural resources. But the first step we must begin to take is that we must have the right institutions to drive this. Let's talk about grid resilience or grid reliability in Nigeria. You know, before I was talking about people generating and adding to the national grid, but you see that the grid is not even reliable. So infrastructure is key. Energy infrastructure is key. So we must go back, create the right institutions, the right platforms to strengthen some of these infrastructure. Then when we get that, we will design policies that will, make it possible for people, or make it very attractive, or make it very interesting for people to come in and invest in some of these assets. In some of these assets. Take for instance, there's what we call a typical policy that exists somewhere, I think in Canada also. I read some time ago. Is the carbon pricing. If you are able to, work towards energy sustainability, or let me say decarbonization, let me use that way, or climate change or greenhouse gas reduction, you are paid a certain amount of money. Why can't we do it that way and say?
But okay, Nigeria already is coming up with what we call the carbon market, and that's part of what the carbon market is supposed to deliver to us here in Nigeria.
Exactly. So if we have this and make it work, then a company like Dangote can step up a bit and say, you know what, the whole of Obajana cement, I want to use sustainable energy or green energy to run Obajana, and use that opportunity to equally sell this energy, or even give, as a way of CSR, give it to the Obajana community. And you see, by just having little incentives from the government, they can be encouraged to do more. Like I told you, if you look at the money, if you look at the entire amount needed, $425 billion, you will see that it's not just something that the government alone can do. And if you look at the energy transition momentum all over the world, yes, we are saying that the developed world should come and give us money. They should bring in their money because Africa is contributing just 3% to climate change issues in the world. But
all right, that's network issue right there. Well, he's talking about that argument that has always been about Africa only contributing about 3%, and that argument that, well, the money should come from the people who are doing the most when it comes to pollution. Well, if you can hear me, do go ahead, please.
yeah, so it's a logical argument. It's a logical argument, but you cannot insist that they must give you money. It's not, you can't insist they must give you. So you must look inwards. You must start from somewhere. You must begin to build momentum and see how far you can go as regards green energy transitions.
All right.
Mostly, like I said, okay.
Okay, very quickly now, let's take a look at Nigeria's energy transition plan. How comprehensive and actionable do you think that plan is? Can it really deliver the net zero carbon emission target?
Yes, I think it's feasible. Like I told you, it's feasible because, number one, we have all that is required. And guess who stands to benefit more from this transition plan? Nigeria. Think for it, let us talk about the battery technology. Nigeria has lithium. Let us talk about the green hydrogen technology. Nigeria has some of the resources that we need to power that green hydrogen technology here in Africa. So all we just need to do is to articulate these things very well. Find out where we have the advantage. Find out the assets that are available to us, both human and natural resources or assets. Find out how we can put these things together, present ourselves to the world like a ready bride, and you see them coming in to tap into these resources. Last time I heard that Elon Musk came here to see how he can tap into the Nigerian lithium resources. I think there's still a discussion going on. I don't know how true, but you see, we have these resources, and it goes to show that these goals are not too tall for us to meet. We have the resources. Let's even talk about gas, natural gas, which is like a bridging energy. Is it like a bridging energy source to the real full decarbonization? If we start with our natural gas, which is cheaper, which is cleaner, then between now and 2030, we should be talking about going fully into the green hydrogen energy generation. Apart from that, let's even go to, let's even talk about the solar. Let's talk about the solar. You will see that a lot of Nigerians who are using solar today have done the benefit cost analysis, and they've seen that it's even cheaper. So if people are ready to embrace it, and the technology is getting cheaper every day because of innovations and disruptions, you see that over time is something that we can meet. What we need is political willpower. We avoid corruption. We don't corrupt the process. We don't corrupt the entire process of transitioning. And we have the right people to man or pilot this scheme. Believe me, between now and 2040, we should have been able to catch up with some of the countries, even in Europe. So all we need is good leadership, commitment, passion, good leaders to drive this whole scheme or this whole agenda, and we'll be there within a short space of time.
Well, quickly now, the target is to build a 100% renewable energy power system by 2060. Now, talk to us about, the likely challenges or bottlenecks, that must be addressed in our quest to achieve this particular goal.
For me, the major challenge, we don't lack innovations, we don't lack natural resources, we don't even lack the money per se. What we lack is leadership. And when it comes to leadership, not that we don't have people who would have done it, but corruption is a problem. Corruption is a problem in Nigeria. If we can deal with corruption and make sure that corruption does not infiltrate into this agenda, into this plan, or into this commitment, believe me, we can achieve it. Because so far, look at states that have been able to adopt solar with street lights and others. Most of them have come out to say, man, it's cheaper. It's cheaper. And it's getting cheaper every day because the technologies are being, the technology is still evolving from China to South Korea to America to Canada to Germany. technology is still evolving. So there are opportunities, and can I say the impact is becoming huge. So for Nigeria, I don't think we have much challenge except for leadership and except for corruption. If we can deal with these two, create strong institutions that will drive these mechanisms, have the right people, have the right structures, create the right platforms that will power this. Typical example, like I said earlier on, is a green bank that we provide cheap sources of funds for us to drive this agenda. Believe me, it's something that we can achieve within the time frame. Is it going to be easy? The answer is no, but it's achievable.
All right. Quickly, just before we go, you were talking about opportunities and all of that. I want to believe that this green transition offers opportunities to some individuals, talk about private and financial sector players. Let's just talk a bit about how these people can key into these opportunities and maybe just available opportunities for them to key into.
So there are so many opportunities within the green energy transition space. Let's talk about solar today. A lot of people right now in Nigeria are gainfully employed because of solar energy technology. And not just that, I don't even want, let me even digress a bit and talk about the direct opportunity. Today, the two most crazy, let me use that word, problems we are facing in Nigeria today in terms of looking at the economy is food security and energy security, as far as I'm concerned, because if you deal with that energy security, you will be able to stabilize a lot of things, even food, transportation, agriculture, healthcare, and the like. So there are so many opportunities. If we can go in there and deal with this problem, generate energy, imagine that as of today, or as of 2021, the report from Tracking SDG 7 is saying that 92 million Nigerians don't have access to quality and stable electricity. And we're about 200 million people. So to speak, half of Nigerians are living in the dark or don't have access to quality or stable and resilient electricity. So imagine that we are able to invest so much in this area. We create job opportunities, we create foreign direct investment, we even bring in foreign portfolio investors into the economy. We'll be able to deal with our foreign exchange issues, because a lot of Nigerians are buying generators from China, from North Korea, from Indonesia. So at the end of the day, that's using what's it called? The little dollars that are accumulated that CBN has to distribute, to give to some of these people to buy some of these generators, or generators. Imagine that we are able to have generate our own renewable energy electricity. There will be no need. Generator importation will be gone. We'll save that money. We save that cost. So many lithium will be mined. We build battery factories where people can go in and work. Okay. The hydrogen or green energy technology will be activated. People will be able to work. There will be no noise, no pollution, dangerous gases cut off from our environment.
Okay, I think this is a good place to anchor. Land on that, and then we end the conversation. Land on that, please.
You said?
I said land on that. You were going to say something. Most importantly, land on that, and then we'll end the conversation.
Okay. So most importantly, we are able to achieve the net zero emission.
All right.
Of 2050. So the opportunities are enormous, huge. We can't even exhaust them. Okay.
Thank you so much for gracing our show today and for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with George Anyegunem, sustainability expert. And moving on, the Naira has continued its free fall in the parallel market, depreciating to above 820 Naira per dollar. The Nigerian currency is falling rapidly against the greenback amid increased demand by Nigerians and unmatched supply. We will look into that when we come back from this break. Stay with us.